What's up everyone, Shirley here, and today we're finally going to be taking a look at Sylvanas Windrunner on Mythic difficulty. I'm playing Venthyr still for this, at least at this time, of the kill anyway, and we're going to be going over this. Also, I wanted to point out that I'm going to timestamp it down below somewhere. I'm going to be going over the Venthyr rotation at the end of this video, because I know some people have been asking about that, and I figured a live kind of environment would be nice to talk about it rather than just a target dummy or something. So stay tuned for that. But anyway, jumping in here on the pole, we're going to go ahead and charge in, rend up the boss. In our GCD is when I'm going to be using my first potion, Avatar, Warbreaker, all that jazz. We're going to be using Lust on the pole, of course, and I do have a Windfury totem, so thank your local shamans for that. But as these first set of arrows come out here, I'm going to be leaping to them and using my Bladestorm here. I also like to charge the boss a couple of times when she does her little backstep thing, just for extra free rage on the boss there. I'm going to intervene my tank here rather than charge because I want my second charge use for right here. And the tank isn't getting hit by those ads, so don't worry about, getting slapped from the intervene or anything. I'm going to use my Venthyr teleport to get back onto Sylvanas when she does her Veil. And also I wanted to point out that I'm using my second Warbreaker on those two ads as soon as it comes up immediately because I want the cooldown to be rolling for the next set of mechanics that are coming up here. We're just going to be dodging the Windrunner swirls here. They're actually pretty small, probably even a little bit smaller than the graphic on the ground is itself. But she's going to do her backup thing here again. I'm going to be trying to charge that, and I have this weak aura telling me to go to the right set of chains here. This is where I'm going to be using my Avatar and Warbreaker again, hence why I wanted to use my Warbreaker immediately as it came up. Otherwise, I wouldn't have it up to get these chains down as fast as possible right there. And if you don't use it and just sit on it, then, it's just wasted opportunity. So I'm going to use that. Unfortunately, the Veil came out on top of those chains, so, I had to run out from that a little bit early there. Ideally, that doesn't happen, so we lose a little bit of uptime, but not too big of a deal. Also, whenever you get chained to your assigned arrow slots there, you can kill pretty much all of them around it, but the one that I'm attached to, I have to wait for everybody else to help me with, so hopefully the rest of your raid team is paying attention and not just leaving one person to cleave those down. Our range, speaking of which, are going to be baiting over here to this side of the room for this Veil, and that's just to get the boss to move in a particular way when she spits out these chains here. Watching out not to charge too early for these swirls that are coming down, because you can get clipped by them, and it will kill you, unfortunately. And then the last set of chains here before intermission, I'm going to go ahead and use Warbreaker and Bladestorm again, too. This is going to throw our cooldowns out of sync with Avatar, but it's okay. I get one of the Sentinels on me. We're going to go ahead and drag this line through our ring here, and I'm going to move up and start killing these. Now, these things do just melee you, so as an arms warrior, you can just pop parry and walk into them, as long as you're paying attention to your timer on your buff itself, so you're not there when your parry falls, because they will just one-shot you. But you can get up there for 8 seconds and help cleave those down. You can go ahead and use Sweeping Strikes there, too, if you do it early enough. And it'll be back up for this next set of arrows. We're holding damage, by the way, around 85% for this, because we wanted our cooldowns to be back up for the transition here in this last set of chains. I'm going to use my rally there and then leap all the way to the far side and get these right chains down. Now, I do have Warbreaker back up here, thankfully, and this is where our Avatar I'm also going to send with Sweeping Strikes, cleaving those down really fast. Anytime you have a condemn target with cooldowns like that and Sweeping Strikes, if it's on 4 to 5 targets, it's really good damage anyway, and on 4 to 5 targets, it's better damage than just Bladestorming anyway. So it doesn't really matter that I don't have Bladestorm for that set of chains there. Get those down as fast as possible, and now it's into the intermission phase where you're dodging the Rives, or the lines on the ground that Blizzard likes to do all the damn time in this expansion. And the swirls, all these things pretty much just kill you. Not much to say here, just don't get hit. Try to stay towards the edge, I guess, is what I would do. Just less of a chance to be in the middle of all the stuff. And then when she teleports back in the middle of the room here, I like to charge the boss and get some autos on here, not for damage, but for rage generation. That way we can go into phase 2 here with a full rage bar. And that's going to help a lot getting down this first set of ads, because we're not going to have Avatar back up immediately here, but it will be back up, and I'm going to do something a little bit goofy here. our raid splits, and we're going to run up here, and these waves are coming out, and they always come out in generally the same place, so I'm going to try to take a position here and just wait for them all to pass before I worry about getting on the boss or anything. And this is where I'm going to go ahead and send my Warbreaker and Sweeping Strikes to get in as many condemns on the top end here as I can before they fall below, because Avatar, as you can see, is just now coming up. And if I'd have waited that long, you know, it's a lot of missed opportunity damage there on these ads, and they need to die quickly. But I am also going to go ahead and use my Avatar as soon as it comes up with Bladestorm, and that's just to align the cooldowns back up for later on, because there are some downtime periods where, you know, these things come up within a few seconds, 10 seconds or so of each other, so you can wait for that. We're going to be moving on to the next platform here, and I'm going to be leaping pretty much all of these, not quite all of them, and charging up to Sylvanas just to make sure we get her interrupted in time, if nobody else can make that distance in time. And this is our first burn in P2. We're going to be just blowing any cooldowns we have here and doing damage. And backing up for the Haunting Wave here. As melee, what you can do is right as the Haunting Wave is about to finish its cast, that's when you need to jump back. You don't really need to run out early, it's pretty slow. But as a warrior, you can just jump back a few steps, look for a gap, and then charge back in for some free rage. And then she's going to do her little veil thing, and we're all going to be stacked up to where she was and taking the Warlock Gateway across, charging back in once again, getting just as much damage in his face as we can. And then when the second wave comes out, I'm just going to leap all the way out here, and that's because she's going to go immune after this, and I want to get up ahead of the pack, just away from everybody, so we can help spread out those debuffs. And as for the next bridge here, I'm going to go ahead and use my little teleport, get up ahead here, and then we're just going to be standing around waiting on this corner here for these waves to go, because this is the safe space, rather than trying to get up on the ads here. Plus, our tank isn't always up here immediately, so if you get slapped instantly, that will definitely kill you. That's also why I threw up my parry here as well, because occasionally you can snap aggro on something. This is my rally once again here for this platform, because it's pretty dangerous. We're going to get down the Summoner as quickly as possible, destroying all these orbs, of course, watching out for any of the terror orbs that need to be kicked. We just obliterate this platform, so that went pretty quick. And now I'm going to run up here to the next one, and I hadn't actually ever tried it yet, but you could potentially stand on the edge of this bridge here to try and cheese out as much time before you kick her as possible, because it's not me kicking her there, it's Jaina that's actually kicking her around half of the cast, and we can maybe buy, you know, a couple more seconds with that. But not that big of a deal either way. Stepping back here for the first wave, and as the ads start to spawn, you do want to be watching out for the big overhead slam that the big guys do. And we're going to be taking our gateway out there as well. When they do start spawning, that's when I'm going to go ahead and use my Sweeping Strikes, because you might as well be cleaning these things down, not just for pad, but getting them out of the way, because that slam can actually kill people. Couple of waves to avoid here. I ran out a hair early here, could have, you know, bought an extra global, not that big of a deal. And then when we come back in for this whale, this is where she's going to go immune anyway, so I'm going to spread out, throw up a Spell Reflect and help mitigate some of that. And now it's just padding on ads, CCing them, not getting hit by slams as we go into phase 3 of the fight. And, oh, yeah, Ouroboros is being developed by the Maw guys, so we need to stop that. Anyway, we have one global here. You can throw up a Battle Shout or something to get that absorption off your healers, maybe if they're running that conduit. And getting into phase 3 here, the Veil is coming out immediately, or pretty soon I should say, but I am immediately going to go ahead and burn my cooldowns here. I found that while there is a little bit of a gap at the very end with Lust, and you could delay, you know, and wait for this, it's not that big of a deal, and I like to just get the CDs rolling as fast and as often as possible, because there are a few places later on where Raze is going to come out, and if you waited, then things kind of get out of sync between Avatar and Warbreaker itself, so I like to throw them just immediately going into this phase. Speaking of which, I have an assigned position here for the Veil, so we're not overlapping that. And we're stacking on the close to the platform that we're moving to there, that way we're not picking up any more of those debuffs from the tanks, and, you know, moving at the end of the Raze cast. Obviously, you can stand basically to the very end of the Raze cast before you need to jump across, even a second or two afterwards, before it won't let you do that anymore. So, you know, you can cheese as much damage as possible. We're going to be spreading out for the Scream here, trying to stay in melee range as best as we can just to get, you know, more uptime for us. And as I'm cheating to this side of the platform right here is where I need to be every time she goes up in the air for that debuff thing. So anytime throughout these phases that we're moving to a new platform or in between mechanics and we're not stacking up for healing like we are right now, I'm going to be cheating over to that side of the platform just because it's safer to be there and lets people around you know that's your spot, basically. As our cooldowns come back up around here, instantly sending them here. There's no reason to wait during this period. Just avoiding the swirls. Our tank's going to run around, so we might have to chase the boss around a little bit here as he's cleaning up these pools and just moving them to the edge. Death Knives come out. Anytime these come out, you want to just instantly move. You know, that way you can see exactly where people are and if you have them or not. I get the arrow debuff finally here. I'm the last person, so I'm waiting for it to hit our guy, and then I'm letting it hit here. I'm popping parry and reflect. And I was supposed to stay on that platform till after this veil comes back, but I was pretty low, so I got a little spooked, and I jumped back early here just to get some healing on. And as we go down to this last raise, this is debatable, but I like to throw my Warbreaker right there during the raise cast, or right before it, depending on how things line up if you don't get a debuff or whatever. And that's just because I don't want it to be out of sync with my avatar later on. It's not that big of a deal either way, I suppose, but I like to do that. Moving back around to this side of the platform, always orienting myself with the middle of the platform itself. Do get the Death Knives here, just inching slightly to stay out of our tank's knife pathway there. Still spreading out to the same location roughly here for our scream, and just burning the boss. We do get soaks on the left-hand side there that all of our range are taken care of. Usually saving immunities for that. Sometimes those will be in pools, but you do what you have to do, even if it requires, you know, sacking somebody. As we stack up during all this is some pretty heavy damage here, and we do have to dodge pools coming out again. I went ahead and used my rally here because a lot of people were getting pretty low. It's not the best place that I wanted to use it. I wanted it for the end of the burn, but, you know, you do what you have to do. Stacking up once again for the Fury and dispelling any of these things so we're not going into the next platform with any of those debuffs. But we still have a few seconds before that's coming up again. This is our last soak. This one's usually a little bit more dangerous because there's always, well, not always, but there's usually one in the pools that you really need an immunity. Our Paladin's going to go over there and soak that with Bubble. And I'm trying to be in my Veil position here because I know it's coming out, even though I'm standing in front of the boss, and you will get parried. I wanted to point that out at the beginning of the fight, too, is that this boss will parry you all the damn time, so anytime you can watch where she's facing, which is a little bit challenging because her model's, you know, fairly small compared to most bosses, then you want to be behind her. And as we get down to the last platform here, our arrows are just running the far side or taking the gate. I was standing back there, not hitting the boss, so losing up time, unfortunately, but I didn't want to die, and it gets pretty sketchy there, especially rough on our healers, so I was just trying to buy as much of a safety net as we could, because we did lose a few people. And this is where we're going to get into, you know, our final burn, basically. Spreading out for our scream, I'm going to move to the far side, trying to here, close to my Veil spot, and I'm holding my CDs here, finally, because I know that Bloodlust is coming up for our last burn. As the dark comes out, move over to my spot, throw up a reflect just in case it's on me, help mitigate some of that. And this is where we're going to use our last potion, Bloodlust, all of our cooldowns, and go for broke. And we're going to move back here. Unfortunately, I am in front of the boss once again, but this is where we're stacking for healing CDs and stuff, so, you know, you can sacrifice a few parries to, you know, try and be safer for this final phase. As I pointed out, I instantly get my MS parried. Feels bad, man. We get this last set of arrows that's running out on top of the Death Knife overlap, which is a very scary spot right here. If you do have parry up for that portion, it'd probably be, you know, safe to use it if you're worried about it. Going into this last Fury, praying that nobody picks up one of these pools right here, because it's just everywhere until after the cast, of course. Now, I get one here, and it doesn't matter. Like, this is the end of the fight. Raise, kill it, or be killed, so I'm not worried about moving out or anything. This is where I'd like to have my rally. Unfortunately, it wasn't up for another 20 seconds here. Down we go, but our tank and one of our healers, I believe, just the tank, actually, at the end, catches the kill, finally. So there you go. There is Sylvanas on Mythic. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Thank you for watching if you made it this far, and I will see you very soon. Peace.
This pump, try to do a little more damage.
Nice.
Oh!
Hey, we did it. It's a one-pull boss.
Yo, who's getting the sweater?
I can go to something else.
Yeah. All right.
And welcome back. This is the portion where we're going to be going over Venthyr's rotation, and it's a little bit of nuance that it has at the top end of every fight for the people that wanted to see and talk about it. It's basically the same as every other Covenant's execute phase, just minor differences at the top end. So anyway, as we get into the poll here, I'm going to try to be going over every little bit that I can. I'm going to Ren the boss first, and that's just because we're using Ren basically during our cooldown windows, and that's Warbreaker, basically, every time is Venthyr, but outside of that, we're not refreshing it all the time like the other Covenants would do at the start of a fight anyway. So, Ren, and next GCD is our Avatar Warbreaker combo, and then I'm going to immediately overpower, and that's to get the charges rolling, and also because our next GCD is Mortal Strike, and that's for two reasons. One, the damage is worth it in and of itself, but we're also using the legendary that has a chance to apply Colossus Smash. We're fishing for Colossus Smash overwrites and extensions every single time it's off cooldown, basically. And then after that first Mortal Strike, we're going to use our second Overpower charge. And if our Mortal Strike itself procced Overpower, we're going to go ahead and use Overpower another time. So we'll have 2 stacks again at that point. And then our Mortal Strike is usually about back up from those 2 GCDs. So we're going to Mortal Strike again. And you can see this chain of events, but this is before we've ever even pressed Condemn. And if it procs another Overpower, we're going to use that Overpower. So they always have priority over Condemn. And then after all that one Overpower there, then we can go ahead and Condemn the boss. And there is a couple of nuances to that with Rage. You have to track your Rage generation and your auto attacks much more as a warrior right now than in a lot of times in the past. During Execute phase, at least, or during Condemn phase, because playing with your Rage pool is going to help you it's going to help you maximize your potential damage while not Rage starving yourself or over capping. So in that series of events at the very beginning I was going over, if you have Bloodlust up, like we do at the start of this fight, and Wind Fury Totem, thank your local shaman, then you might get flooded with Rage just instantly, and you don't want to be sitting at 100 Rage, right? That's wasted damage on Condemn, even though Overpower and Mortal Strike have priority. So in that situation, if Mortal Strike's up, and you're over, say, 70 Rage, and you know your next auto attack is going to over Rage cap, aka you're going to hit 100 and lose out on like 5 Rage there, then obviously Mortal Strike, if it's up, has priority. However, if you have one charge of Overpower rolling, but you have another Overpower waiting to be used, go ahead and Condemn in that situation, not Overpower, because we don't want to be Rage capping. And then after that, that's when we're going to use our Overpower. And then the same rule applies, that Mortal Strike and Overpower always have priority outside of Rage cap situations where you don't want to be doing that, and you want to be burning that excess 40 with Condemn itself, because it's still hitting harder than anything else, technically. And also that goes for the bottom end of your Rage scale. So if you're waiting on autos and you don't have any Rage whatsoever, and you hit like 25 Rage, and you have enough to press Condemn, but Mortal Strike's about to come up in like a second, 2 seconds, you don't want to use your Condemn, because then you won't have enough Rage to use your Mortal Strike. So it's better to just stand around and wait for your next auto, get that Mortal Strike out, and then Condemn if you have enough Rage left in that 5-second cooldown period of Mortal Strike itself. I feel like if you're... sorry if you're having a hard time following on with this, I'm trying to just put my thoughts into words here. But also in the same situation, you might second-guess yourself where you might be thinking that you have plenty of Rage, but you don't actually, and this is a perfect time, is 50 Rage. If you just use your Mortal Strike, and you hit 50 Rage, then it's okay to go ahead and burn your condemn for that 40, because you're going to generate enough rage before your next Mortal Strike's to come back up to go ahead and use that. However, if Mortal Strike has 1 to 2 seconds, say, left on its cooldown, so it's coming up soon, it's coming up before your next auto attack, is a better way to put it, then you don't want to condemn. Even at 50 rage, you want to wait for that Mortal Strike. Otherwise, what you're going to do is you're going to burn a 40 rage condemn, which is going to throw you down to 20 rage, right? And that's not enough for Mortal Strike. Now Mortal Strike is sitting on cooldown for 1 to 2 seconds, waiting for your next auto attack. So it's better to wait in that situation, Mortal Strike, and then with that 20-ish rage that you have left, burn that on condemn. It's just more rage to damage efficient. Sorry if that's kind of hard to follow, but that's the nuance to it. And yeah, that's about it as far as like rage management. Other than that, you're just going to be using your rend every time you're going to be right before your Warbreaker avatar window, at least on single target, right? If it's on multi-target, then you're not going to be bothering with that. Speaking of which, when like the arrows come out on this fight and you have Warbreaker up and like sweeping strikes, you're going to go ahead and burn that Warbreaker on those adds, and then sweeping strikes, and then either overpower. Ideally, you'll start with overpower to get, you know, a proc chance rolling. Or if you know they're instantly going to drop below 80% health, you can go ahead and just condemn to just get that one out in that window there, and then it's going to be overpower priorities because of Dreadnought. And Immortal Strike, of course, back into condemns at the very end. But on a couple targets, condemn on 2 is still a lot of priority damage, especially if you know it's going to fall below or die in that window. So if here's a good example. On this burst phase here, I know these guys are going to get obliterated, and I've got all my cooldowns back up, so I'm going to go ahead and spam a couple of condemns here on this summoner, because I know on these 2 targets, it's going to hit way harder than even, you know, the Dreadnought lines are with full cooldowns. Like, if you're getting crits, that's like 50,000 damage between one button press. So that's the situation where I would just prioritize condemn. But most of the time, overpower, Mortal Strike has priority. And that's about it. This got really technical, and this has went on for far too long. Thanks for watching if you got this far, and I'll see you next time. Peace.